Evan Cole arrived at the neutral orbital hall with a small toolkit and a quiet mind. He was not a diplomat. He was a systems engineer. He liked numbers, patterns, and the soft sound of machines when they were working well. The hall, however, did not sound right to him. It had a low hum that felt a little tired, like a singer holding a note for too long. He paused in the entry to listen. The note was not wrong yet, but it was close to wrong. He could hear a tiny drift, a slow slide, the way ice slides down a roof when the sun comes out. He walked forward with the human delegation and kept his eyes on the long, bright table. It was smooth and pale, like stone turned to glass. On the far side of the table sat Queen Lyra and her court. She was young and calm. She wore a simple crown that was not flashy, and she sat tall in a throne that glowed with a soft light at the base. Her court stood in two lines behind her like careful pillars. Everyone on both sides left one chair empty, the seat directly across from the queen. People called it the challenge seat. No one wanted to touch it. Everyone said it was a seat of heavy meaning. Captain Piper Shaw, who led the human envoys, walked a little ahead and kept her voice low. "We speak softly, we move slowly, we follow their rules," she said to the team. She gave Evan a look that said, "Please do not tinker with anything unless I ask." Evan nodded. He did not plan to tinker. He only planned to listen. As they reached the table, the hum in the floor shifted again. Barely at all. But to Evan it was like a shadow moving in a mirror. It bothered him. He had spent years with resonance systems and coil arrays in quiet labs, smoothing out interference until the sound was a straight line in his mind. The throne had a base coil. He could tell from the faint harmonics that touched the air. Hidden, coils ran under the floor and in the walls. The hall used sound and light to confirm identity and calm the room. It was clever. It was also fragile. Queen Lyra lifted one hand. The room became even more still. "We welcome the human envoys," she said in a clear, even voice. "Let us start with water, then words." Her language had a gentle rhythm, and a translator band on the table gave a soft echo in standard. The queen studied the human faces one by one without hurry. When her eyes came to Evan, they stayed a moment longer. She could tell he was not a diplomat. He stood like someone who listened to walls and floors. The seat across from the queen stayed empty. Everyone kept their eyes from it. The advisors on her side stood with hands folded. One of them leaned in close to whisper to the queen. He was taller than the others, with careful hair and a patient smile. His name was Cade Orvox, and he watched every little thing at the table with interest. Piper sat one chair away from that empty seat. The rest of the human team fanned out. Evan slid into a place near the end where he could hear the hum better. He set his small toolkit on the floor. Inside was a pocket tuner, a small sensor lens, and a cable he had built himself. Nothing dangerous, just helpful. Piper started the opening words. They were soft and respectful. She thanked the queen for the neutral hall. She praised the design of the table. She said humans wished for peace with clear rules and shared work. The queen listened and said thank you. Her voice stayed steady. The translator band worked well. The room should have felt calm. Yet the hum bothered Evan more now. The pitch bent very slightly when Piper spoke. It was a strange bend, like a smile that did not reach the eyes. Evan tried to let it go. He told himself to relax, but he could not. He looked at the empty seat across from the queen. The sound in the floor seemed to point at that seat. It was like a beam of sound that made a shape in the air. He closed his eyes a moment and counted breaths. 1, 2, 3. The note dipped once more and did not return to true center for a long heartbeat. Evan lifted his head. He did not think about rules or the weight of that chair. He thought about how sound travels in straight lines until it hits a curve. He moved before anyone could read his intent. He walked around the table, set his toolkit down, and sat quietly in the challenge seat. Gasps moved like a breeze around the room. Several of the queen's guards shifted their feet. The translators chirped as they caught the sudden noise. Piper's hand froze in mid-gesture. Cade Orvox leaned forward with sharp interest and then leaned back as if to say, Well, well. Evan folded his hands on the table. He did not speak. He did not frown. He simply sat and listened. From here the hum came through cleaner and louder, like a river closer to the ear. He felt it move across the surface of the table and up the legs like a soft vibration. The throne's base coil pulsed in an elegant pattern, but there was a second pattern hiding under it, slow and sly like thin oil on clear water. Queen Lyra did not move for a breath. Then she raised one hand again and the guard stilled. She looked straight at Evan. The light around her crown caught a small glint in her eyes. Not anger, not shock. It looked like curiosity. You choose. The seat that others do not choose, she said. Her voice was calm. Do you know what this seat means? Evan met her eyes and kept his own voice level. I know it is a strong seat, Your Majesty. I know it is usually for a brave person or a foolish one. I am not brave. I am also not foolish. I am a listener. This seat lets me hear the room more clearly. The court rustled. A soft ripple passed through the human team as well. Piper pressed her lips together, not angry, only worried. She had told everyone to follow the rules. Evan had stepped across a legend. Cade spoke now, warm and polite. Your Majesty, the human has declared a challenge, he said. That is the old meaning of the seat. Our tradition treats it as a formal act. We should consider the implications. Queen Lyra kept her eyes on Evan. Do you challenge? She asked him. Evan shook his head once. No, Your Majesty. I do not challenge you. I ask only to listen, and to request permission to check the resonance of this hall. I think it is a little out of tune. A few quiet laughs escaped from the far end of the table, not mean, just surprised. A young court aide looked at her feet to hide a smile. A human aide coughed into his sleeve. Lyra's lips curved a little at the corners. You came to a peace hall to tune it? She asked. If I may, he said. Sometimes the room changes the words. I want the words to be heard as they are. The Queen glanced at Piper. The captain gave a small nod. She did not love this, but she trusted Evan's instincts when it came to systems. Lyra turned back to Evan. What do you need? She asked. Only a few seconds, and your permission to place a small sensor on the table, he said. Granted, said Lyra. Evan opened his toolkit and took out the palm-sized tuner and the small sensor lens. He set the lens on the table's glassy surface. It made a faint sound like a single raindrop. He thumbed the tuner on. A thin line of light rose from the device, showing a moving graph of the sound in the room. He could see the main line of the throne's coil. It was elegant, steady, and moderate. But he could also see a second wave under it, almost invisible, slipping in and out of phase with human speech. Piper spoke a few test words at his request. We value this meeting. We come in peace. The graph showed the second wave dip and then rise when she said peace. Evan frowned a little. He asked an aide from the Queen's side to say the same phrase. She did. The second wave did not dip. It smoothed out instead, as if pleased. Cade watched with polite calm. Interesting toy, he said. It makes light when people talk. It shows how the room hears us, Evan said. The Queen leaned forward slightly. And how does the room hear us? She asked. It hears, your side is steady, Evan said. It hears our side is a little sharp, like we are pressing the note too high. It is small, but I think it can grow during a long talk. It can push the translator band to read our tone as tense when it is not. Can a room be biased? One courtier asked, curious rather than angry. A room can be tuned, Evan said. He kept his voice simple. And tuning can be changed by time, by heat, by wear, or by a hand. The Queen's eyes settled on him again. By a hand? She asked. I do not know yet, Evan said. He looked down to the floor near his feet. But I hear the drift in the coils. It is not random. It has a pattern. Lyra made a small gesture of assent. You may check the nearest floor panel, she said. Thank you, Evan said. He stood, took a thin tool from his kit, and slid it into a seam along the base of the table. The panel lifted with a soft click. No loud noise, no rush of air. He placed the sensor lens down close to the floor coils and watched the graph. The second wave grew sharper, like a narrow line cutting across a wide river. He moved the lens a bit to the left, then to the right. The line followed one direction more than the other, as if it were pointing. Cade shifted again, still calm. He kept his hands folded. "Your Majesty," he murmured, "the human is adjusting parts of the hall from the challenge seat. It is quite unusual." "Unusual is not always bad," Lyra said softly. Evan closed the panel and replaced the sensor on the table. He moved the tuner closer to the Queen's side. The main line of the throne's coil filled the view with a steady heartbeat. He held the tuner next to the crown's base light. The second wave went thin. He moved it back toward the human side. The second wave thickened again. He stopped and looked at the throne's base for a long second, listening without moving the way you listen for a faint sound in a sleeping house. The small click behind the banner seemed to hang in the air. Queen Lyra kept one hand on the cloth. Evan kept his eyes on the tuner's thin line of light. Piper held very still, as if she could stop the room from tipping just by not moving. Cade Orvox was the first to speak, soft and careful. "Your Majesty," he said, "for safety perhaps we should ask the human to step away from the throne and the banner. He is in the challenge seat and he is near sensitive parts of the hall. If a fault spreads, he will be blamed. If a fault stops, he will be praised. Either way, it will be a story." Lyra did not look at Cade. She looked at Evan. "Do not touch the device," she said, "but tell me what you need next." Evan lifted the tuner so the entire table saw the gentle wobble in the main line and the thin second wave that should not be there. His voice was steady. "Your Majesty, we need a clean chain of custody. We need your court to open the wall behind the banner and photograph the device where it rests. We need to scan the signal before anyone moves it. That way, the room itself can answer our questions." Cade folded his hands. "This is sensible," he agreed in a pleasant tone. "We should also have the human place his tools on the table and step back 3 paces. Caution looks good in a record." "That is fair," Evan said at once. He placed his pocket tuner, the sensor lens, and the cable on the table where all could see them. He stepped back 3 paces and kept his hands. But 2 court technicians came forward with neat gestures. One carried a clear slate and a camera wand. The other carried a slim field scanner in a sealed pouch. Queen Lyra lowered the banner. "Proceed," she said. The first tech slid a small tool into the wall seam. The panel opened like a book. Inside, sitting on 2 tiny magnets, was a small repeater node the size of a slice of fruit. It was not part of the hall's original lines. It was an extra thing, quiet, precise, and sly. The tech took high-resolution images without touching it. She recorded the timestamp. The second tech scanned the signal through the pouch. On the clear slate, a wave appeared, narrow, regular, polite. It matched the thin pulse that Evan had found with his sensor. Piper spoke in a calm voice. "Please keep scanning while the device is still in place," she said. "Let the hall hear itself. Then we can compare before and after." The second tech nodded. He made a slow circle with the scanner. The slate showed 2 bands now, the throne's warm hum and the repeater's neat pulse. The tech glanced at Lyra. "Your Majesty, the external pulse is feeding a phase delay," he said, careful and plain. "It is small but consistent. It aligns with the drift the engineer found in the coil." Cade watched the picture form with a very mild smile, as if he were looking at a simple puzzle. "And the source?" he asked. "From where does this small song come?" The tech traced a line on the slate. "It bounces from the ceiling ribs," he said, "but the main feed is local. This node is not just a relay. It is the source." Lyra held the banner aside with one hand so everyone could see the hollow. "Seal the device in a clear evidence box," she said. "Leave it in the wall until the box is closed. Then lift it in plain view." The tech slid a box in, pressed it against the wall, and clicked a lid so that the node now sat in a clear shell. He locked it with a simple code. Then he lifted it out. The hum of the hall changed at once. It did not go silent. It did not break. It just relaxed like a throat after a cough. Evan's tuner showed it too. The thin second wave flattened. The main line steadied. Not perfect, but better. He did not say, "I told you so." He said nothing. He let the picture speak. Cade's eyes went to the evidence box. The note inside looked clean and expensive. It did not look like something anyone would drop by accident. He tilted his head. "Whose tool is this?" he asked. "Who would bring such a polite little song into our hall?" The second tech read, the data on the slate. "There is a tiny mark here," he said. "A serial seed. It looks like a fragment of a manufacturer code." "Read it," Lyra said. The tech zoomed in. Letters and numbers sat like dust on the casing. The Quartz alphabet mixed with a human style of numbering. "It appears to include a human vendor pattern," the tech said, "but it is not full. It is only the style. It is easy to imitate. A faint murmur rolled along the human side. Piper kept her posture steady, but her jaw tightened. Cade's voice stayed smooth. "If it is human style," he said gently, "perhaps a human carried it in." Piper answered at once. "Or perhaps someone wanted it to look human," she said. "We do not know yet. We will not jump." Evan opened his hands a little. "Your Majesty, may I check the throne base again with the coil housing closed?" he asked. "If the drift was fed by the wall device, the throne's pattern will be calmer now. If there is still a second thing hidden, the drift will remain." "Do it," Lyra said. Evan did not step near the wall. He walked to the throne base and knelt on the clear floor. He did not open anything. He held the tuner near the housing and read the field from the outside. The main line was good. The small repeating teeth were still there, but weaker, as if a hand had eased its pressure. He stood and spoke simply. "The throne is still a little out of tune," he said. "The extra piece I saw in the housing is still changing the sound. It is the slow device. The wall node was the fast device." Cade clasped his hands. "Two problems," he said softly. "Both discovered by a human, sitting in our challenge seat." His tone was warm, but he was not praising. He was drawing, a picture he wanted others to see. Before anyone could add more, the hall itself changed its mind. A soft tone rose from the ceiling, steady, single, and cool. The doors at both ends slid shut with a firm sound that echoed like a stamp. A thin red line circled the edges of the floor. Text appeared in the air above the table in the Queen's script, and in standard, dual protocol, integrity lock. Tiro. Human delegation froze. The Queen's court went quiet. Piper lifted a hand to her team without looking away from the words. "Hold," she said. Evan did not move. He knew enough about these halls to know what the integrity lock meant. When the hall believed the core systems were challenged from inside, it did not invite guards from outside. It held everyone inside while it ran a check. It looked like a duel because it was born from old customs, but it was a systems duel now. It tested claims. It measured hands. If the hall found a source, it flagged it. A second line of text appeared, narrow and spare. "Last change. Detected. Access panel. Throne base." Piper turned her head slowly. She looked at Evan's cable on the table. She looked at the coil housing where he had opened the panel earlier with permission. She looked at the serial seed on the device in the evidence box. Cade did not need to speak. The room itself had drawn a simple line from change to human. Evan placed both palms flat on the table and kept his voice level. "Your Majesty, that message refers to the moment you gave me permission to open the housing," he said. "I did not change anything inside. I only looked. The lock does not know the difference between a change and an authorized check unless the key signature was recorded first." The court tech swallowed. "We did not stamp the key before the panel opened," he admitted, tense. "I should have put the key signature on the log. That is my fault." Cade's tone was gentle, almost kind. "Systems do not care about intentions," he said. "They care about facts." A human opened the Queen's coil. The same human pointed to a device that uses human numbering style. The hall closed. "These are only simple notes. We do not rush. We observe." The floor hummed at a slightly higher pitch. Overhead, small shutters slid across the vents, not to seal air, only to control it. The table's surface locked its magnetic anchors. No one could yank it. No one could flip it. The translator band flickered and then steadied as the hall switched to a clean, narrow channel. Queen Lyra did not sit. She stood with one hand on the back of her throne and looked at the text above the table as if it were a person who had spoken too fast. "Integrity lock," she said calmly. "Conditions?" A softer voice answered from the hall's central, mind. It had no shape, no gender, and no mood. "Conditions: tamper signature near throne core. External phase source detected and removed. Unresolved drift remains. Target candidate identified. Last recorded proximity with tools." Evan took a careful breath. He felt heat rise in his face, but he did not let it push his words. "Your Majesty," he said, "the lock will accept a resolution path. It needs a test plan. If I present one and you authorize it, the hall can run the plan with time rules. If the plan fixes the drift, the lock lifts. If it does not, the lock blames the plan." Cade turned his palms up a little, polite. "So the human who sits in the challenge seat wishes to direct the test. This is very old and very new at once." Piper's voice cut across his in a level tone. "The human who asked permission every step wants to show data," she said. "We request fair terms." Lyra looked at Evan. "What is your plan?" she asked. 3 steps, Evan said. He raised 3 fingers. "First, map the drift in 4 points along the floor coils to confirm the pattern is still present after the wall device is gone. Second, run 2 spoken phrases from both sides to show the translator's tone shift has reduced, but not ended. Third, without opening the throne, place the coil in a neutral listening mode for exactly 60 seconds. That will show us if the extra piece inside is active. We do not remove it now. We only listen for its signature." The narrow alarm strip glowed steady at the far wall. It was the kind of glow that did not shout, but it did not blink either. It simply said, "This matters now." The hall's neutral voice spoke again, clear and calm. "Warning, coil bank C trending hot, safety margin narrowing." Queen Lyra did not sit. She turned her head toward the sound, then toward her cortex. "Status," she said. The senior tech checked his slate with quick, careful fingers. "Coil C is 3 degrees above normal and rising," he said. "Rate of climb is slow, but steady. If the rise continues for 12 minutes, control systems may force a cooldown lock. The table anchors will harden. The vents will shift to heat draw. We will lose open mode." Captain Piper Shaw kept her voice even. "Is anyone near Coil C?" she asked. "Any crew in that corridor?" "No crew near," the tech said. "The coil bank sits behind the west wall above the ceiling ribs. Access ports are sealed." Evan Cole did not look away from the tuner's line. He felt the change in the floor through his shoes, a tiny prickle like static. Heat climbs change sound. He had learned that in small labs and quiet nights fixing, heater hum in old stations. He spoke softly. "Your Majesty, may I make a quick observation?" "Speak," Lyra said. "Heat rise without load rise is strange," Evan said. "If the hall did not ask the coil for more work and yet the coil is warming, then either a sensor lies or a small device near the coil is dumping energy into it. The wall node we found sang into the room. Another device could sing into the dough. Coil." Cade Orvox's tone was smooth and polite. "Or the coil simply warms because it is old," he said. "Old things do that. We should not leap." "We will not leap," Lyra said. "We will measure." Evan nodded once. "Permission to run an external sweep," he said. "No one touches the coil. We only listen with light." "Granted," Lyra said. Evan held up his small sensor lens. He set it on the table and connected it to his pocket tuner with a thin cable. Then he looked around the hall and spotted the narrow translator band strip that ran along the table's edge. It had small emitters that sent a very soft test tone into the air so the band could hear itself. "With your leave," he said to the Queen and to Piper, "I can borrow the test tone for a minute. I will sweep it higher and lower and map how the ceiling reflects it. A hot coil or a live device changes the reflections. Do it, Lyra said. The court tech opened a maintenance window, stamped the key, and handed Evan access to the band's test tone. Evan did not smile. He kept his face steady and his hands gentle. He tuned the tone down, then up, in a slow sweep that even a tired ear could follow. The tuner's graph drew a second image above the table, a simple outline of the ceiling that brightened where the sound returned strong. See this, Evan said in a calm voice. Here is the ceiling rib over coil C's run. The reflection is a little stronger than the others. It should not be stronger. It should be even. The senior tech frowned in thought. If there is a device near the coil, it can act like a small mirror, he said. It would increase return. Evan nodded. Yes, he said. Or if the coil is wrapped with a thin heat wick that someone added, it can shine back a little more at these tones. Piper looked from the graph to the alarm strip. How long until we pass safety margin? She asked again. 12 minutes to force cool, the tech repeated. Unless the rise speeds up. The hall's voice chimed softly. Advisory. Coil C rise rate is increasing. 11 minutes to force cool. Cade kept his hands folded. If a force cool lock triggers, what does that do? He asked, as if he were asking for the sake of a child in the back row. The tech answered. It locks the table anchors. It restricts movement around the coil run. It may interrupt the record stream for a short time while power routes. It is safe. It is not comfortable. Evan looked up. Loss of record during an investigation is exactly what a saboteur would want, he said in the same plain tone. If someone put devices here to change our voices, they may also try to cause a heat lock to cut our view. Lyra's eyes were calm, but her posture said the room was now very small between the walls. Prevent the lock if we can, she said. Do not risk the coil. Evan spoke quickly now, but still clear. 2 things in parallel, he said. 1. Stabilize the coil with a counter frequency that moves heat into the floor array instead of the ceiling ribs. That buys us time. 2. Trace any live relay hiding near coil C. If we find it, we can shut it down in a clean way. Cade's smile did not move. A counter frequency is a change, he said gently. If the change is wrong, the hall will mark it. The hall will mark that the Queen authorized it, Evan said. We will use neutral mode. We will not touch the coil. We will push from the floor side. Lyra lifted one hand. Proceed with step 1, she said. Stabilize. Mark the record. The court techs stamped the key again. In the record stream, clear letters wrote, Neutral counter frequency. Authorized by Queen Lyra. Engineer Evan advising. The floor array hummed a little deeper, like a quiet bass string. The temperature rise slowed. It did not stop, but the line on the tech's slate bent toward flat. 10 minutes, the hall said. Rise slowing. Piper exhaled once, but did not relax. Step 2, she said. Trace the relay. Evan had already started to build the tool he needed from scrap and courtesy. He asked Piper for 2 small emitters from the human team's demo kit. She slid a pouch across the table. Inside were 2 tiny projectors used for short-range presentations. Evan paired them with the sensor lens in his pocket tuner. He taped one emitter under the table's edge where the sound was clean. He set the other on the far corner. Then he tuned the pair to send a slow sweep that would set up a soft beat pattern in the room. Interference patterns make a map when you know how to read them. The map could point to little speakers or hidden transmitters because those little things add their own beats. He checked the ceiling again. The swept tones returned in a lace of light above the table. The lace was even, in most places. But above the west wall it was thicker, like threads tangled in a single knot. There, Evan said. He pointed to the knot. That knot is near Rib C's access port. The senior tech nodded. We can open the port with the service arm, he said. No one touches. We look first. Good, Evan said. But please, before you open, scan for radio handshakes. If there is a relay, it will say hello to someone when the cover moves. The tech ran a radio scan with the clear slate. For a few seconds, the graph was quiet, and then a thin spike appeared at the edge of the band. It was very polite. It said, almost nothing, but it said hello. Handshake, the tech said. Record it, Evan said. Show the header. The court slate magnified the tiny header that wrote on the handshake. It was a small string of symbols like a wave with a few teeth. The hall's record captured it and wrote the exact time. Piper leaned in. Can we match? She asked. The hall's neutral voice answered. Cross-checking with recent relay events. A soft pause. Match found, pre-lock alert handshake 5 minutes before integrity lock. Identity flag. Cade Orvox. Recipient, Director Sloan. The room did not move. It felt like a pause in a song where the next note could make people dance. Or break the strings. Cade tilted his head. His tone stayed gentle. That line again, he said. The hall likes my name today. Perhaps my slate runs test code that the hall reads in a clumsy way. I do explore systems. I do review devices. The hall remembers old checks and confuses them. We should be careful with blame. Lyra did not speak to him yet. She said, open the access port with the service arm. Cameras live. Do not touch anything inside. We only look. The arm slid down on its quiet track and clicked the port open. Inside the rib, above Coil C's run, they saw a small assembly. It looked like an honest bracket at first. It held a thin strip that might be a heat wick. But the camera angle changed, and everyone saw the small ring at its center. That ring was no wick. It was a little pulse coil. It glowed faintly with its own note. Evan felt his hands want to curl into fists. He did not let them. He pointed at the ring with a flat palm instead. That ring is a microcoil, he said. It can dump a little energy as heat. It can also sing a second tone into the main coil. It is doing both. The senior tech swallowed. I do not see this in the maintenance blueprint, he said. It is not ours. The hall read the ring's print with a low light scan. The YOW device had a tiny code stamped near a seam. The hall magnified it. The code used the same mix style as the wall node. It looked like a human vendor style at a glance, but the parity bits were wrong for every human maker on record. Forgery. Of style, Evan said, simple and plain. Someone wanted the eye to think human without the math to match. Piper rested her fingertips on the table, steady. Can we disable it from here? She asked. Not by hand, the senior tech said. We need to cut its power feed, or break its field. Cutting power requires opening a deeper panel. Too slow. Evan tapped the tuner. We can break its field with a counterbeat, he said. Short, soft, and precise, it will stop dumping heat. But if someone is listening, they will know we broke it. The someone already knows we found the wall device, Piper said. It is fine if they know we stopped this one too. Cade's voice was careful. Or perhaps when they know they will push harder, he said in a tone of concern, as if he were the one asking them to be safe. Lyra looked at the ceiling camera, then at the alarm strip, then at Evan. Decrease the heat, she said. Do not break the coil. The countdown numbers at the top of the record window marched down like clear beads on a string. 258, 257, 256. The hall's hum seemed to lean toward the numbers, as if sound could watch time. Queen Lyra kept one hand on the key wand. Evan Cole stood with his tuner angled toward the throne's base. Captain Pipershaw sat still, ready to move only if words asked her to. Cade Orvox folded his hands and kept a calm face that gave away nothing. Begin, Lyra said. Evan nodded once. Hall, enter throne neutral bleed mode, he said. Set, output to 1 safe note, amplitude step up by 2, phase lock to floor array. Do not change identity signature. Keep record open. The hall answered at once. Neutral bleed mode ready. Awaiting key. Lyra pressed her palm to the wand. A soft circle of blue lit under her hand. The record wrote the permission in clean letters. The throne's base light dimmed to a steady glow. The coils in the floor gave a deeper hum like a calm drum far below the table. Evan breathed in. On my mark, he said. 3, 2, 1, mark. The throne's core sang. It was not a loud song. It was a single clear note with a warm body. The note moved through the floor like water finds the low places. Heat followed it. The alarm strip on the far wall dimmed a small shade. The senior cortex slate showed the rise curve bend down a little. 2 minutes, 50 seconds, the hall said, rise slowing. Lyra kept her hand on the wand. She did not squeeze. She did not tremble. She watched the graphs and then watched Evan's face because she had already learned that his listening could see things a graph took a moment to notice. Hold this line, Evan said softly to the hall. Do not drift. Floor array, carry bleed to east vent path 4, west vents stay idle. The floor answered with a change in tone that even normal ears could feel, like the small difference between a room with the window open and one with the window closed. Piper's team sat a little heavier, as the table anchors caught some of the tide and fed it down. 2 minutes, 40 seconds, the hall said. Coil banks A and B steady, coil C decreasing toward safe margin. Cade's voice was mild. A queen's throne is not a tool for engineers, he said, almost like a sad teacher. If it fails, the blame will be heavy. It will not fail, Lyra said without looking at him. It will help its hall. Evan did not answer Cade, either. His eyes moved from the tuner's line to the rib camera view and back again. The ring in rib C glowed a little, then less, then a little again. It was stubborn. It did not like being made quiet. He matched his beat against it, not with force, but the way you match steps with a friend who is limping, so that both feet find a common pace. 2 minutes, 30 seconds, the hall said. Cool down threshold moving away. Piper let out a breath. She did not smile. Stay with it, she said in a low voice, more to the room than to anyone in it. Evan adjusted a dial. Hall, keep the neutral note at amplitude 2, he said. Do not climb. Set floor array to micro lag of 1 millisecond to catch late heat. Set, the hall said. The graphs smoothed. The main line on Evan's tuner looked clean. The tiny teeth he had seen earlier were gone. The alarm strip at the wall dimmed again. 2 minutes, 20 seconds, the hall said. A small new message tapped the bottom of the record like a fingernail. Unauthorized nudge on anchor line. Rejected. Evan saw it and raised his eyes to Lyra. She saw it too. She did not speak. She only moved 2 fingers, and a pair of quiet guards shifted to stand near the low pillar that held the private console for advisors. Cade did not look at them. He kept his calm face and watched the graphs like a person at a concert who enjoys the show, but has thoughts elsewhere. 2 minutes, 10 seconds, the hall said. Coil C within safe margin in 30 seconds at current slope. Evan's pulse ticked once faster. Good, he said, very soft. Then a faint ripple moved under the table, almost nothing. Evan felt it in the soles of his shoes. It was a skip, a single frame missing in a long film. The table anchors grabbed harder for half a breath and then eased. The throne's note wavered not in pitch but in color, like light behind a thin cloud. The hall wrote it as text. Anchor spoof attempt. Partial. Source? Lyra asked. Unknown, the hall said. Spoof had no full signature. Pattern resembles replay of earlier anchor tests. Piper's eyes went to Cade's hands. They were still, empty, relaxed. She did not comment. She did not need to. The record would hold the facts. 2 minutes, the hall said. Coil C safe margin reached. Overall temperature still above nominal, but stable. A quiet exhale moved around the table. It was not a cheer. It was a small human thing when a held breath can finally go home. Evan did not let the line go slack. Hold bleed for 30 more seconds, he said, then reduce to half. We do not want to cool too fast. Set, the hall said. The ring in rib C lost its glow. The rib camera showed its small circle as just a dull ring of metal. The alarm strip at the wall dimmed to its lowest shade, since the first warning. Keep one eye on the relay path, Evan added. If it wakes, tell me on the main window. Watching, the hall said. For 10 long seconds, nothing new happened. The countdown reached 150, 149, 148. Then a small, sharp ping touched the air, so soft that most people did not hear it. Evan heard it. The tuner saw it too. A thin spike touched the top of the graph like a needle making one small hole in a huge canvas. The hall wrote, "Open interval ping detected on private route." "Block it," Lyra said at once. "Block set," the hall said. "Open interval will return in 90 seconds. Cade spoke in a voice that sounded a little tired, as if he had walked a long way. "Your Majesty, a block can only hold so long," he said. "You cannot stand all day at a door and keep it shut for clever hands. Perhaps we should take the safe path and let the hall cool the old way." Lyra kept her eyes on Evan. "Engineer," she said, "reduce the throne's bleed as you planned." "Yes," Evan said. "Hall, drop neutral note to half. Keep phase lock. Keep floor lag." The throne's glow brightened very slightly as the load eased. The floor hum shifted up, a finger's width. The graphs did not jump, they settled. "Bleed reduced," the hall said. "Safe." Cade's eyes moved to the rib camera and then to the low pillar by his chair. He looked almost bored. It was a clever mask, and he had worn it for years. It had worked well in meetings and ceremonies. It had let him move small ideas with no one seeing the trail. A new line wrote itself on the record stream, not from the hall, but from the investigation channel that mirrored device events in the room. Console wake. Advisor station. The guards, near the pillar, did not touch Cade. They only watched the little console as it drew a faint square of light on its smooth face. The square showed a message. Password required. It was ordinary. It was innocent. It was exactly what any console would show if a hand brushed its edge. No one had brushed it. The guards had watched. The console had woken on a schedule. Evan looked at the square and then at the tuner. A pale shadow moved across his graph, very light. It matched the wake exactly. He had enough now. Not to shout. Not to accuse. To show. "Your Majesty," he said in a steady voice, "I request permission to sweep a narrow beat across the advisor console base. It will not harm it. It may show us if a small device sleeps in its shadow." "Do it," Lyra said. Evan tuned one of the small emitters to a thin band. He gave a very soft tap on the beat, like a finger tapping once on a table that no one else hears. The tuner listened for anything that hummed back in sympathy. Something did. It was tiny. It was shy. It sang back from the console's base, not from the screen, not from the keys, from the seam where the console met the floor. The seam had a false stone cover. The cover had a coin-sized cavity behind it. The cavity held a coin that was not money. It was a small anchor spoof puck, the kind that can whisper to a magnet and tell it a little lie. Evan did not move toward Hedisar. He lifted his chin toward the guards and then toward the puck's place. The guards did the rest. One pressed a small tool to the seam and slid the cover out. The other reached with a soft clamp, as the service arm had done before, and lifted the puck into a clear evidence box. The hall wrote the event immediately. Anchor spoof puck seized. Source: Advisor console base. Cameras 6, 7, 8 live. Cade did not flinch. He looked into the evidence box like he might look into a cup of water. "We have many visitors," he said with a calm voice. "Perhaps someone placed it when I was away." Piper spoke without heat. "Perhaps someone with a private route, named for them, can say more," she said. The hall's countdown reached 120, 119, 118. "Reduce bleed another step," Evan said softly. "We are almost done." "Set," the hall said. The throne's note softened. The floor hum rose another small step and then settled. The rib camera showed the ring as a silent circle. The alarm strip glowed at its lowest line. The senior text slate showed all 3 coil banks within safe range, trending toward normal. Evan finally let his shoulders drop a little. "Hold this for 1 minute," he said. "Then we can exit neutral mode and rest the throne." Lyra did not remove her hand from the wand. "We will hold," she said. For 20 seconds, the room felt like itself again. The table sat in its place. The people at the table were calm. The graphs were neat. The air did not taste like panic. Even Cade's face seemed to accept the new moment, as if he were ready to let the day flow back into normal talk about trade lines and shared coils and legal words that move slowly. Queen Lyra's hand was steady as she held the key wand across the table. Evan reached out and took it with care, like a person lifting a warm cup from a friend. The base light under the throne flickered again in that wrong pattern, thin and sharp, as if a wire were being pulled sideways through soft metal. The hall's neutral voice stayed calm but exact. "Alert. Core resonance misalignment. Source unknown." Evan did not raise his voice. "I have the wand," he said. "Hall, show me the throne's live harmonic map, full detail. Floor array, stand by to catch any spill. Table anchors hold firm." The map appeared above the table, rings and lines, gentle curves where power moved, and one crooked cut sliding across the pattern like a diagonal scratch. Evan breathed in once and let the air out slow. "Your Majesty," he said, "with your permission I will place the throne in safe manual for 20 seconds. I will not change identity. I will retune the note to center. We must act before the scratch grows." "Granted," Lyra said. She did not look away from the map. "Manual safe mode," Evan said. "Begin on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The hall accepted the command and dimmed the throne's base light a fraction. Under the table, the floor hummed a little deeper, like a friendly engine settling into the right gear. The crooked cut on the map slowed, but it did not stop. Evan watched its tip. The tip drifted toward the wand cup's seam again, then curled back toward the advisor console pillar, as if something on both paths tugged at once. "Two tugs," Evan said softly. "One near the wand base, already weakened, one from the advisor pillar, stronger now." Captain Pipershaw kept her eyes on the graphs. "Can we isolate the pillar?" she asked. "We can blur it," Evan said. "Not block. Blur." He lifted the wand slightly, then set it back. "Hall, create a gentle null around the advisor pillar's base. 1 meter radius, 10-second duration. It's a soft bubble that tells small fields to rest." "Soft null prepared," the hall replied. "Awaiting authority." Lyra nodded. "Once. Authorize." The bubble settled like clear fabric around the base of the pillar. On the map above the table, the crooked cut lost a little speed. It did not vanish. It wobbled. A new chime sounded at the door. The hall wrote simple words in the air. "Visitor at outer hatch, Director Sloan. Identity verified by station gate." Cade Orvox's face did not move. He sat with his hands folded and his posture neat, like a portrait. Only his right thumb tapped once under the edge of the table. The tap had no sound, but the map shivered by a hair. Evan saw the shiver. "Record that tap," he said to the hall, gentle and plain. "Mark time, mark motion, mark field change." The hall marked it. The crooked cut on the map bent again, then slowed as the soft null held. "Put Director Sloan on audio only," Lyra said. "Not in the room yet. We keep the hall steady." A voice came through the ceiling speakers, low, careful, and a little surprised. "Your Majesty, Captain, I am Sloan. I came because my network monitor flagged strange traffic on a route with my name on it. I did not open that route today. I did not build it here. May I share a proof key to show the last time I signed any relay with my name?" "Share," Lyra said. The hall took Sloan's proof key and checked it against the relay string that had winked across the map earlier. It wrote the result in clear light where all could see it. Route label, Sloan Bridge. "Does not carry Sloan's signature. Label is not identity." Piper met Cade's eyes for a brief second. She did not smile. She only let the record speak for her. "Thank you, Director," Lyra said. "Stay at the hatch while we finish stabilizing. We will hear you after." Evan adjusted the wand pressure in his hand. He did not grip hard. He let the wand sit as if it were a small bird that wanted calm. "Hall, he said. Increase manual safe mode to amplitude 1.5. Keep the throne's note centered. Floor array, hold lag. Table anchors, do not release. Set, the hall replied. The crooked cut on the map thinned. The base, light under the throne, steadied a shade. The alarm strip along the wall dimmed by one step. Cade spoke at last, soft and careful. Your Majesty, we have learned something useful. Labels lie. People borrow names. The human outside says he is not the source. The human inside holds your wand. We move on thin ice. Lyra's eyes stayed on the map. We will not skate, she said. We will stand and measure. Evan watched the map for one more slow breath. The crooked cut wavered and drifted toward the advisor pillar again, then toward the wand seam, then back. It is trying to get a grip, he said. We will remove its glove. He looked at the senior court tech. Please open the advisor console housing, top plate only. Use the service arm. No one touches it by hand. Cameras live. The arm slid from the ceiling rail with quiet grace. It lifted the top plate. Under the neat panel lay the simple boards and clean lines of an official console, and one extra thread set deep along the side, thin as a hair. The hair ran down through the pillar under the stone lip toward the floor seam. It was almost invisible. The camera had to tilt twice before. Everyone saw it. The hall read the hair with a low light scan. It responded in a single line of text. Foreign filament present. Not on blueprint. Cut power to that filament, Evan said. Not with a blade. With silence. Give it a quiet pocket where it cannot hear or speak. Pocket set, the hall said, and the map above the table smoothed again by a small but sure amount. Now the wand seam, Evan added. Service arm. Touch the cup with a ceramic tip like before. Do not lift. Just rest the tip on the seam. The arm lowered. The ceramic tip kissed the edge of the wand's cup. The crooked cut shrank and then softened like a pencil mark rubbed. With a thumb, Evan counted to 5 in his head and lowered the manual safe mode by a hair. Manual safe amplitude 1.2, the hall confirmed. The base light beneath the throne glowed even and warm. The floor hum came back to the note that felt like steady ground. The alarm strip at the wall dimmed again until it was only a thin, polite line saying, I am here if you need me. Evan let out a small breath. Core stable, he said. The hall agreed. All banks within nominal range, core resonance aligned. Only then did Lyra speak to Sloan again. Director, stay at the hatch a moment longer. We will hear you in person soon. Court logged that the false root used his name without his signature. Logged, the hall said. Cade's voice was quiet. Names float, he said, almost like a proverb. Sometimes they float to the wrong island. Then we tie names to true ropes, Lyra said. A guard moved to the pillar and sealed the console under a clear cover. Another guard sealed the small filament pocket. Both actions went into the record with time, camera, and signatures. Piper nodded toward Evan, and then toward the evidence boxes lined at the side. The repeater from behind the banner, the microcoil from rib C, the anchor spoof puck from the pillar's base, and now the filament pocket marked, sealed. Your Majesty, she said, with these 4 items and the relay map, we have enough to open the talk in a clean way. Lyra's gaze went to Cade. Advisor Orvox, she said, her voice calm. We will now ask you direct questions with all records open. You may answer. You may invoke silence. The hall will mark either choice. But before we do, the hall will hear Director Sloan because his name was used and because he came when he saw it. Cade's hands were still folded. As you wish, he said. His face was even and smooth, like a lake with a stone at the bottom that no one could see. Open the hatch, Lyra said. The doors at the far end slid back. Director Sloan stepped into the threshold but did not cross the line until the hall finished a scan. He was a tidy man with a travel jacket and a case under one arm. He looked tired in a clean way, like someone who had walked fast but kept his shirt neat. The hall wrote cleared in small light near his shoulder. Sloan bowed to Lyra, nodded to Piper, and glanced once at Evan with a short, grateful look. Director, Lyra said, tell us your last hour. Sloan opened his case and placed a slim slate on the table edge, careful not to cross into the circle near the throne. He tapped a key. My monitor woke me when a route called Sloan Bridge put traffic into a timing window that matched old test code I wrote years ago for a university lab, he said in plain words. The code is public. Anyone can copy it. My signature is not public. When I saw the timing match but no signature match, I came here to say, this is not mine. On the way, I fetched logs that show where I was for the last 12 hours. The hall may read them. The hall read them. It wrote a short line. Director Sloan not present in this district for last 12 hours before arrival. Signature mismatch confirmed. Thank you, Lyra said. You may sit near Captain Piper's side. We will speak to you again after we finish with the advisor. Sloan did as told and folded his hands on his case. Cade turned his head to look at Sloan. His eyes were polite and empty. Director, he said in a gentle voice, names float. Sloan nodded once. Then we tie them down, he said, as if they were discussing weather. Lyra looked at Cade. Advisor Orvox, she said. The record shows a private console waking with your user mark at the same times the relay path blinked. The record shows your console's base held an anchor spoof puck. The record shows a filament in your pillar. The map shows a route labeled with your name tag toward a route labeled with Sloan's. The hall shows multiple devices here today that are not in our blueprint. Do you have any clean answer? Cade's calm face did not break. Your Majesty, he said. I answer this. I serve you. I love this hall.